Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Edward Willows, and welcome once again to Gabbin. Today, we're taking a little turn. As you know, I always have celebrity guests on the show, but today I actually do have a celebrity, but in a little different aspect of the entertainment business. He is, and I mean, he has a very impressive resume. He is a filmmaker, he is a producer, he is a director, and his name is Daniel Knudsen. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. It is fantastic to be here.
And I must tell you, I am honored to have you here. I have seen a lot of your work, and obviously you're very young and very impressive list. I mean, being a filmmaker. And I guess the obvious question is, how did you get started in this business?
Well, good question. So I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, my hometown. And one day my dad came home from work and he told a story about a coworker who had a friend who worked in the film business. And this particular friend that his coworker had managed the payroll on a movie. It was a Hollywood production that was being shot over in Europe. And the way my dad recounted the story was like this. He said that his coworker told him that everybody on the set was mean to each other, but they were all nice to the person who managed the payroll. And I heard that story, and this is crazy. But I heard that story and I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up. That sounds so cool. There's real people who make the movies you see on the theaters and see the shows on TV, and it's just fascinating.
That is a story in itself. Now, also, I understand, and we have this in common because I am also a storyteller. I've been dreaming stories all my life. How do you come up with your ideas? Is it just something that hits you at 2 a.m., or how do you come up with your ideas to transform it into a film?
Well, good question. So far, just about every film so far that I've made has been written by others. There's only one movie that I directed that I wrote, and that was Christmas Coupon. The rest, well, thank you. The rest have all been actually other writers have created the project, and I'm just taking their vision and artistically presenting it on screen. Now, my most recent film, Dinosaur Cove,
yes, which I want to talk about.
Yeah, you'll have to see this one. I can get you a screener link. This one it was actually my idea, but another writer wrote it. But I had the idea of a kid who found dinosaur eggs, and in his case, they're real dinosaur eggs, and nobody believes him. And we go on this whole adventure.
And when will this film be coming out? Where could people find it?
Well, hopefully soon. We are just wrapping up our final aspects of post-production, and it'll be on all the major platforms when it comes out, and hopefully in the next couple of months here.
Great. Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I've seen picture reviews, and I'm like, wow, that sounds like a great, great movie. Now, besides doing the filmmaking, you produce, you direct. Obviously, you had a background education. You took this up, you studied, you just didn't come take the camera and start going, correct?
Yeah, so I was always interested in film ever since I was a little kid. I think my dad told me that story. I mean, I was a very young child. So back in the day when I was growing up, we didn't have cameras on all the cell phones and everything, but we had this old family camcorder that you could kind of link up to VCRs, and you could do like, well, we did a lot of live in-camera edits, hitting record and stop, and you move the camera to the next angle, record and stop. So we did some editing that way, and then we had our very rudimentary VCR to VCR. You push play, hit record on the camera, and the tape on the camera could actually do some very, very, very rogue analog editing. So I did a little bit of that as a kid because I was fascinated by it. But then I went through a film program right here in my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I grew up, born and raised east side of Dearborn, but then I moved over to Ann Arbor, near Ann Arbor, right while I was in high school. And then there's a community college here that has just a terrific film and visual media program. I took their film and digital media, their program on their track with all the different courses in that. And then I transferred to Thomas Edison State University and then finished up my degree through them. But so that was my educational background in film, and I did find that tremendously helpful. But then, of course, like so many things, you really learn when you get thrown into the pot and
into the real world. You're out there, man. Now,
yeah.
when you decide on doing a film, what is sort of the process? Do you do your own casting? Do you hire your own crew? How does it all begin? How does it all materialize before you actually go and shoot?
Well, good question. So the first thing that we deal with as filmmakers is the idea of investment budgeting and how are we going to fund the film and then hopefully pay that back and hopefully even make some money for our investors. So the first thing we have to deal with is remember that we're in show business, not just show art. Right. So we try to take a look at ideas and evaluate whether or not we think it will work in the marketplace. And so that's kind of the first step. If we think we've got an idea that will work, we have to figure out how to raise the money to be able to shoot the project. So that's kind of that's sort of step one. And then nowadays, I do a lot of the casting myself or with a small team. I've worked with casting directors in the past. It kind of depends project to project. And then once the film is cast and we have we work on finding all of our locations. Of course, we already have to have a script by this point. And then we go into production when we can schedule those, when we can lock in those crew and cast and locations and script. And then we shoot the whole project. And then we come back and actually it comes right here. This right here is my editing station. So
wow, very impressive.
If you remember, if you see the movie Skydog, that's the bomb from Skydog.
Wow. So, speaking of, that was my next question. Yes, for someone that doesn't know, you starred in Skydog opposite Dean Cain. What was that like for you?
I grew up watching Dean as Superman on The Adventures of Lois and Clark. So it was honestly kind of surreal, all these years later, I'm meeting him in person. I was a director of photography on a different movie that he starred in, and we actually got to know each other and became friends. And then I pitched to him this new movie project I was doing, and he was game. So then we had a chance to work together. Dean is the nicest guy in real life. He is so kind. He really is a Superman. I mean, he's the real deal. He's just got a good heart, just a good guy. And yeah, I enjoyed seeing him in Superman as a kid. So it was kind of wild getting a chance to work with him in person all these years later.
Now, how do you feel technology has taken over today with filmmaking? Because long story short, I've been in the business since 3 years old. My parents started me with TV commercials. Wow. And my dad always tells me the camera was like a Sherman tank. So naturally, everything today is the palm of your hand. How do you feel technology has helped or has it hindered your business?
Mark, I would say I think some of both. To some degree, I believe the technology has really helped. There have been a few, maybe not that many, but there's been a few really creative movies that have been well made that people have done on very low budgets. And they've been able to do that because of the camera technology that we have. The technology for the camera in this cell phone right here is better than the professional technology that we had when that cost tens of thousands of dollars when I was starting in film school. So we've seen this technological progression skyrocket. So that's a good thing because there's stories that are very creative stories and very creative filmmakers that wouldn't otherwise have the ability to tell their story, but the technology has made the storytelling much more accessible. So I think that's the benefit of the technological advancements we've seen. Now, I personally feel we're also seeing a disadvantage to the technology in two ways. To a degree, there's so much digital noise out there now because everybody has a cell phone, so everybody's a filmmaker, everybody can make projects. So there's an element of digital noise that now we're competing with. However, I personally feel the biggest downside to technology is that we're seeing storytelling replaced by visual effects, especially in the movies, not so much on television and series, but in the movies. So many of the big franchise movies are nothing but visual effects spectacles, and people will go out and watch them because it's cool, but they really don't showcase excellent storytelling. So I think right now, as a filmmaker, I feel that the technology is actually hurting us a little bit because we can do it and we can make all these fantastic, big visual effects, spectacular movies. Everybody's doing it. And I think the quality of the storytelling is actually suffering as a result of having this amazing access to technology.
I totally agree with you. When I will go and see these films, animation, it's like, to me, a movie is a movie. You want to see the story, you want the actors, you want the ingredients. That's what makes a good film. And of course, back in the day, not that I'm that old, but that's how filmmaking was.
Right.
When you went to see, I mean, we could just mention, like, on Golden Pond would be an example. You know, that's when movies were really movies and they were made. But yet today, the visual effects is there. Now, one of the things that I admire, and I want to talk about a little bit, your movies all seem to have a family value to them, which is something I really appreciate. And I think more and more people today are appreciating that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yours are family value orientated. Tell me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're trying to do projects that inspire hope in people. So we think there's so much out there that's negative. We want to focus on the positive and hopefully create projects that make people fall in love with life a little bit more and enjoy themselves and have a good time and have fun. And, there's not a whole lot of family hopeful content that's out there that's being created. So it's a little niche in the marketplace that I feel is underserved. And so we're stepping in and trying to fill that void by creating this content. And, not everything has to be family friendly. We're not saying that at all, but we're making some of this content because we think this is an underserved market that we think it ought to have more content made for.
Mm-hmm. And sort of going back in time, because when I was a kid, I mean, that things were family orientated.
Yeah.
When you sat around the TV on a Sunday night, you were watching something that was wonderful, where today you sit down, it's like, switch the channel. So yeah, that is very true. And I really like that you are doing that. Now tell me, when it comes to making a movie, what is like the time frame for a movie? How long does it take?
Good question. So it depends on the project. Usually for us at this point, it takes about a year. It usually takes about a year from idea, writing the script, casting, finding the locations, setting our production schedule, shooting, editing, final post-production, sound design, to distribution. That's usually about a year-long process. So that's actually a little bit shorter for us than it is on some of the larger projects. We can move a little bit faster being a smaller outfit, but it still does take some time because there's a lot of individual steps involved.
Now, when you scour your location, obviously it has to fit the needs of the script, but how do you do it? Do you just do research? Do you go online? I mean, like Christmas Coupon, I remember the scenery was beautiful. So, I mean, how do you know where to go?
Good question. So we usually check with maybe connections that we already have. There's some locations we know of that exist, and then we go out and ask those who have some type of connection to who may either be the owner or in charge of the location, and then we're able to secure those locations. Some of them have come with just through interesting connections. We had in Christmas Coupon, there was this really neat, it's in real life, it's a wedding venue, but it's this old barn that's used. And we were able to use that location as the big charity event in the movie. And then the final wedding scene at the end of the movie. So it's a real wedding venue. It's not too far from where I live here in Michigan. And we were able to use that.
I remember the barn, the snow. I'm like, wow, this is beautiful.
I know. Yeah, one of the neat things that we get that you actually usually don't see in a lot of the Hallmark movies is that was all real snow. We're here in
Right.
Michigan where we foot or two of snow every year, so they're out on the ice. That's real ice. That's real snow. It's not fake. On a lot of Hallmark films, they'll spend $50,000 pulling in all this fake snow that
Yeah,
they'll
or
put in some of the
blowing it
scenes.
in fans like Hollywood does the Christmas
Right.
parade. Wow, it's snowing.
It's snowing and they're shooting in California and everyone's drenched in sweat wearing parkas. But
Yes.
I found out that was one of the first movies I did outside, really in the cold. It is brutal though, shooting in the winter with real snow, because man, some of those scenes were very
Oh,
cold to
yes.
shoot.
And I know you played the priest in that film. How did that
Yeah.
come about? Did you say, this is for me, this is the role I'm doing? How did that come about? Because I'm going to tell you, you made an excellent priest.
Well, thank you. You're very kind. It was kind of a role that needed to be filled, and I thought, this would be kind of a fun role for me to play.
Sure.
It was a pretty short. I think it was only maybe 2 or 3 days that I was actually filming as an actor. Most of them was the one day that we shot in the church. Like 5 of my scenes were all shot that day, and so I wanted, it was a role that wasn't too big of a commitment as an actor, which is nice. Being the director, I had so many other responsibilities, but it was a fun way to kind of round out the project and still be a part of it as a talent member, as well as being the director. So I saw the role and I was like, you know what? Why don't I jump in here and do this
Why
role?
not get the collar on and go, right?
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun. I've never worn a collar before. It was kind of fun because I came to set and I was all in costume. And I was like, I feel like the real deal. People are coming to set.
You
we're in
did a
shirt.
great job. Yeah. Now, we mentioned earlier about casting, and sometimes you says you use casting directors and all. Now, with technology today, have you ever picked anybody? Say somebody just sends you in their picture, Daniel, take a look. Have you ever picked anybody from just like that?
Yep, absolutely. We've picked people from Facebook. We've picked people who've sent in stuff. The way people are connecting nowadays is totally different than the way it always used to be back in the day through all the
Oh,
agencies and stuff.
oh yeah, yeah.
The process is evolving. It's totally evolving and
I mean,
changing.
I remember back in the day, because I had an agent and, we need 500 photos. And that's how it was. And it's like today, you need none of that. It's right there, boom, go. And, Casting Network and Actors Access and all of that stuff. So, yeah, technology has taken over the industry. Although I do think that's probably for the good, because it is so much easier to find talent today. On your part, it's so much easier.
Right. Oh, it really helps. Well, what's neat is it helps us find talent. We're able to even connect with local talent, especially for those of us who are making films outside of New York or Los Angeles. It really does make it much more accessible when we can find people who are in the area, places like Actors Access and Breakdowns and all these places that are putting out casting calls. And we've worked with wonderful talent from all over, but some of them right here in our own backyard.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of New York or LA, is that ever any aspirations for you?
Well, that is a good question. And I have a chance to work in both of those places sometimes. And I directed actually part of Even Christmas Coupon was shot in New York. And LA, I am there usually every couple months doing something. So I'm certainly hoping to do more projects. And yeah, I'd love to direct a big studio film one day. We'll see what happens. But if it doesn't happen, I also am loving some of these smaller family projects. This is all good too. So I'm just kind of grateful
it's all,
for.
That's right. It's not all about the big studios. It's also, this is my opinion, it's the work you created and what you've done. And if you love what you're doing, that's what matters.
I think so. I think the important thing is, yeah, artists have to be out there loving what they're doing, being excited about the content they're making, and then figuring out a way to actually make that content and get it into the marketplace. If we can do that, I think that's where it's at. And it's really neat that we live in a time where people are able to do that. I cannot believe the incredible privilege that I've had to make some of these films. I really don't deserve this. My grandfather was actually a Nazi concentration camp survivor. He was a Polish prisoner of war. And I can't believe that I get to be here in America directing films. These are not the biggest films by any means, but I'm doing what I love, having so much fun, being a part of the industry that I love. So I'm tremendously grateful. You know, it's a gift from God, and we're able to do that now because the technology has made us such that we can make these independent films and then get them out there.
We share that together because I've been in the business, I won't say how many years, but I've been doing this since 3 years old. And I tell this to everyone, the day where it becomes a chore that I don't like what I'm doing, I step away. That's it. But I love what I'm doing, even with the podcast, talking to interesting folks like yourself. I love this, and I love the creativity and just doing it. It's just, there's something about being in this business. I tell everyone, it's like a drug.
It is.
Yeah,
I tell people it's like a highly addictive narcotic. Once you're exposed to it, it's very difficult to get away from.
Oh, it is. And I mean, even me, things I've seen, Emmy Awards, I've been, Los Angeles shows. I mean, I met the Golden Girls back in the day. I mean, it is, when you get in the business, it is very difficult. But again, you do have to love what it is that you do. That's so important. So any future projects that you could talk about, any movies flying around in cyberspace, any ideas?
Good question. So right now we're finishing up Dinosaur Cove, and then I've got a documentary. This is my first documentary that I've directed. That's actually hopefully going to be coming out here. This one is kind of an interesting one. It's about spirituality, religion, how it all intersects with our human story. So very exciting documentary. I'm in post-production on that. I've never done a documentary before, so that's in post-production. And then beyond that, I actually don't know what's next. So I'm going to be finding that out myself. So
yeah, just kind of take it step by step and where it goes.
So, and then of course we're releasing Dinosaur Cove, which is almost done here, but then of course that coming out as well.
Right. Well, we will definitely be looking for it. And like I say, it's very interesting what you do. And I am intrigued myself in movie making. I think it is fascinating. And that is just the art in itself and creativity. I always say filmmakers are special people. They have a gift.
They are.
Yeah, and I really and truthfully do believe that is it. So finally, Daniel, is there anything you would want to tell the audience, something I would not think of asking you about yourself?
Good question. Well, I'd say this: I'm not very good at basketball, and I guess I love filmmaking, which might be obvious, but I'm just excited to be a part of this industry. Thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. This is a lot of fun. And if you guys go out there, please leave reviews on the films, Christmas Coupon, Skydog, Courageous Love, a couple other movies. That really does help get the word out. So thank you to everyone who's been so kind and so supportive all these years and all these projects that we've been making, because that's enabled us to go out and make more.
Thanks. That's it. We're going to end it with that. Well, Daniel, it was very interesting. Thank you so much for being on the show.